Hey everybody, welcome to Dopamine, the show that is kind of like streaking, a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit liberating, but mostly awkward. Today I wanted to talk about this concept of repression versus positivity, something that I spoke about on the podcast about a week and a half ago, last Monday, if my timing is right. And really it's this idea that repression being something that I find to be a common problem with a lot of people suffering from mental health issues, repression being something that leads to either physical issues or mental health issues in people who are just holding themselves back from feeling what they want to feel and expressing that to the people that they need to feel, and that you can't really experience positivity without handling that first. So let's roll the intro and then we'll do the thing.
Drums, please.
Okay, so repression versus positivity. This is an interesting concept to me because it is something that I've been thinking about and seeing as a common thing between the people that I've been speaking to and even myself and my story. My story being one that is growing up in Philly, a place that has had a pretty harsh mindset when it comes to emotions, or at least in my experience, a lot of people have been a little bit, anti-feelings in a lot of ways. Just like suck it up, deal with it, push through, handle things, you know? Philly is a very union town, filled with a lot of people who are just like, you know, sacrifice, deal with it, handle things, handle your stuff, and just be there. And you know, put your emotions aside, don't be a little crybaby sort of thing. And I subscribed to that also growing up, and having that be something that has been a part of my mentality, but then also dealing with mental health issues has led to this like storm of madness that is just exploding in my face, or has within the last year. So this idea of repression being something that you know what you're feeling, or there's some underlying notion of like understanding how you're feeling and what you should be, you know, what you're dealing with. And let me lower this just a second. There we go. Understanding what you're dealing with, but not being open and honest about it. You know, not sharing it with people, not being honest with yourself, and not properly exploring the things that are going on within you and your mind. Conversely, there are situations where people are saying, you know what, just be positive, you know, forget the negativity, ignore the bad stuff, don't deal with it. And I say that couldn't be further from the truth. You need to deal with it. You need to face it. And that's really the only way that you can come to a better understanding of how you can move forward in life. I think this light is a little too bright. It's bugging me out. There we go. That's good. So really, in order to become more positive, you need to find ways to deal with your issues. Whether that's going to therapy or talking to somebody, I honestly do feel that repressing things is very different from just being positive. You know, we need to be optimistic, of course, and we need to work on focus me. We need to work on being optimistic, but we can only really do that if we're actually feeling good about where we're at. Otherwise, we're just sweeping things under the rug, and it's not really helpful to us. So that's really the concept I wanted to share with you guys, is like thinking about ways to identify what is really going on with yourself. Because it's not just repression, but it's this idea of being honest with yourself and how you feel about what's going on. And sometimes, you know, there are different types of people who are more in tune with their emotions, and me, I'm very much not in tune with my emotions. So in order for me to deal with things and make practical movements when it comes to my feelings, for example, when I got a divorce, I had to pack up and leave. I had to quit my job. I had to pack up stuff. I had to plan a trip across the country. I had to book hotels. I had to do a lot of things. And I was working on a big project at work before I left. So that was a big thing I had to deal with, and I had to focus on that. And I did not have a lot of time for me to focus on the my internal issues that I had going on. And by the time I got to the East Coast and everything settled down, I felt like I was falling apart. Like my life energy was low, and I couldn't focus, and I was just like not in a good place. I was just not. I had to give myself room to process, essentially. I got to Philly, and I was talking to some of my friends, and they're great people, and I love my friends, but it's really easy for your friends to fall into a habit of just saying what they would do in a scenario, or what you should do or should have done, or did you try this, did you try that? And that's not where I was. I had already left. I was not in a situation where I was gonna go back, and I was not in a situation where I was really ready to explore that. I had already done that. I had done that for years. And by the time I had made all of the decisions, that's not something I wanted to talk about anymore. What I needed to work through were my emotions, my feelings of guilt that stemmed from that, my feelings of dealing with essentially living an unconventional life and doing something different than people expected. Which in this case was leaving, though 50% of divorces fail, so I don't know why it's such a big surprise. But some people are surprised, and they kind of look down on you, and that's like kind of an issue. It's an issue unto itself, but namely, I wanted it to be something that people focused on me, and I just wanted them to listen and be there. I don't want them to necessarily enable me, but I want them to be a safe space for me, and that's what I needed at the time. And what I still need now is a safe space to work through some of my issues. And I think a lot of us need that. I think a lot of us need room to breathe and grow, and really allow us to cocoon into this safe space, so that when we are able to expand and deal with the world, that we're a little bit better, that we're able to set boundaries for ourselves, and those boundaries allow us to be honest in ways that maybe we weren't before. So by setting boundaries and saying, I don't need this kind of support, I would appreciate this kind of support, then you can actually say what you need to and get it out there. And that's really the point, right? We need to find ways so that we're not keeping things in our heads, and we're not repressing our emotions, or sweeping things under the rug. And really, once we're able to address those things and be able to push forward, that is when we can start to take stock in our life and really feel like we're in a stable place, or at least a little bit better than we were before, or in a place that we can take ownership of ourselves and our responsibility and who we are, and be real about that, and not worry so much about people's opinions or judgments, or what they wish that we would do, or what they would do in our scenario, and really just think about what we want, what we individually need in order to continue to grow and succeed and be people in this world that are letting our emotions out there. We're not trying to be people pleasers. We're not trying to be jerks, but we're not trying to withhold who we are so that we can move forward in life. And then from there, that forward part is the positivity. From there, if you're able to work through your emotions and the negative things that you're working through and dealing with, then you can take that and really build upon it. And you can take that positive, optimistic mindset after that and really be able to thrive. Because happiness on its own is not something that is an endpoint. It's something that we have to continue to work towards. And sadness is also something we have to work through. We can't push it aside. We have to cut through the weeds and with our feelings machete and really kind of work through that, so that we can build upon ourselves and evolve and become more positive people in general, and instill some optimism in our life. That's really all I'm saying. So that's kind of the difference for me between repressing our feelings, which is hiding things, which is hiding the negative, versus optimism, which is boosting the positive. That's really what it is. If you try to boost the negative. It's like polishing a turd. You know, it's just going to be shiny, but it's still going to smell like shit and not be useful. You know what I mean? So demonetized, whatever, that's fine. I don't have enough subscribers for that anyway. But that's the general idea. If you wanted to hear a little bit more of a nuanced discussion on that, you can click the link below. I'll link to that specific podcast episode, or you can go to dopamine.life and look for that episode. It's called Repression versus Positivity, same as this. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. If it's something that makes sense to you, if there's something you'd like to add to the conversation, if I'm out of my effing mind, tell me. I'm totally down to listen. And I respect opinions, but it doesn't mean I have to abide by them. That's a key thing. And that's something I'll probably talk about in the future. But I appreciate you guys. I appreciate listening, watching, and all that stuff. Dopamine.life, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to this channel, leave a comment, like, all that good stuff so people can see this and hear more about what I have to say about mental health and mindset as it pertains to positivity, productivity, creativity, and business. So appreciate your time. I hope you have a dope day, and I'll catch you later.